Welcome to the next episode of Over a Pint. This week, we're in the short bus at Kathleen Black's Ultimate Team Summit, a great event in Niagara, which you'll have to wait till next year to get a chance to come. Right now, though, we're actually sitting down with Ian Szabo from the Short Bus Talks. So why don't you introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, how's it going, guys? My name's Ian Szabo. I'm a real estate entrepreneur and I have a couple businesses. One is flipschool.ca, and my new passion, fun times, good times, is the Short Bus Talks. So yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. And it's very early in the morning, so instead of an actual pint, we're going with a nice cup of Starbucks.
Yep, cheers.
So if Starbucks would like to sponsor, I can be bought. That's what I'm getting at. You can pay me and I will put you on the show. So when did you first become an entrepreneur?
I first became an entrepreneur 17 years ago. My first real business was a contracting company called PLP Contracting, and it was short for Poverty Line Painters. So my goal was to get above the poverty line. And
did you?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. Yeah, first year we got above it, and we've been doing pretty good ever since.
So did people ever ask you what it stood for?
They did, and I told them, and they thought it was a cool story because it's kind of like, I'm really not aiming that high. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a low bar.
The short bus guy is like aiming low,
yeah.
But I think it was a reflection of my awareness at the time, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted to create something that I could do myself and hopefully make money out of it.
Yeah. And so how long did you do that business for?
I believe that was 7 years. So I started out painting with my father, and then we opened up PLP Contracting because I wanted to do some bigger things. And yeah, and then within a year, I got asked to be on HGTV, and there was a lady that came up to me at a trade show, my father's trade show, and she started asking me questions. They were kind of weird. Like, I was like, yeah, I can do that, sure. And everyone's like, are you nuts? Like, you've only been doing this a short amount of time. I'm like, well, if it's my work, yeah, my work's shit, they're not going to air it.
Yeah.
You know, my street smarts from short bus era, but yeah. It worked out. It worked out pretty good.
That's why I actually had a call from Income Property when I was an agent.
Wicked.
But I was like 3 months into the business.
Yeah.
And like, it was one of those ones where like I was the off-air agent for one, like to like, I guess double check the on-air agents' numbers, make sure they were right. I was 3 months in, I had no confidence going into it.
Yeah.
Like, it was the worst interview, so I did not get a call back. But it was cool to like see it. And kind of like see how it all goes about and all that. So it was interesting. But yeah, it was, but like it's always been a belief, like, and this is why I think like I did relatively well, is similar to what you just said. You just said yes.
Yeah.
Figure it out after.
Yeah, it's not the norm, but it actually it's been my recipe throughout my whole life, right? I say yes and I try to figure it out.
So you did that, HGTV comes calling.
Yep.
A lot of agents, like, they watch HGTV, they want to be on it.
Yep.
So how did that process look like from like they approached you to like becoming, like, how did you find that affected your business, and was it positive?
Yeah, it affected my business because I usually in the renovation business or in the real estate business, sales, the interesting thing is you're getting referrals, and when you're doing this on-air stuff, it's great and it's good for your ego, and for me, I loved it because I learned design and I learned on-air techniques. But you're not really getting referrals for work, because the renovations are quick. They send a crew in after usually to fix everything, so it's not like it's a disruption. It's a TV shoot. It's not a pristine reno that everyone's happy. Like, you know what I mean? So for me, it was good, and it's a great feather to put on my cap. But I'm not really good with the hurry up and wait mentality where you just show up at 6 a.m. and you don't start working until like 12, and then when everyone leaves at 5, you're still working. So for me, I preferred the behind the scenes, to be honest, where my chef training as a chef, I can organize quickly and do the jobs fast. So I preferred that.
I know we were talking earlier about like you preferred the off-camera work to the on-camera. So what is that, like the business side of the off-camera look like?
So the business side of the off-camera is, I used to get a list of like 16 houses that need to be renovated in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And I would organize all the jobs and make sure things were getting done.
Yeah. So how long did you do that side of it off-air?
On and off for probably 6 years. And then the last one, the last one where I actually learned the most was we did a buddy of mine, Brian Scrone, and Jocelyn Mercer. We did a pilot for HGTV in Florida, and that was like 8 weeks of on-air filming, and I learned the most then because, you know, 14 hours a day you had a camera on you, so it was multiple cameras, so it was kind of, it's a good experience to kind of work through your nerves, and you had somebody coaching you, so it was cool.
And are you looking at like maybe doing more HGTV shows down the road, or like other networks or anything like that?
No, I'm a short bus dude. I don't really follow all the rules good. I don't really fit in that box. But I know that now. But yeah, I still get calls, and to be quite honest, I just don't call them back. It's just not my wheelhouse anymore.
Yeah, you passed that point.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So for you now, what's your primary business?
I would say I got two real businesses. My primary business is Flip School, which is a consulting. I basically help people buy multiple properties, or I go into brokerages and I help them solve problems. I do training, I do speaking, and I also buy properties for myself, and I work with individual clients that want to build portfolios of properties.
So what does the structure of Flip School look like?
So that's really interesting you ask, because Flip School started out with basically the two books. So I wrote a book called From Rentals to Riches, and then another one called Fix and Flip. And then I created this business called Flip School, which is a hands-on learning environment where I would buy a house and people would learn how to do it. And now it's kind of morphed into this organic thing where I'll do a speaking event and there's 10 or 15 people that want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And just recently, last week, I had 5 realtors that were on this bus, which was different for me. Yeah. So I trained one day in-house on investing, and then I did one day in the field where we showed them multiple different properties that we were working on.
And is that something that like people could like go to Flip School and be like, okay, I want the day on the bus type of thing?
I'm not that organized.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they shoot me an email, it's kind of it's something I'm just redeveloping, and it's not something I'm really advertising, but it's something I'm testing.
Yeah, you never know where things lead.
Yeah, but we have, like, at this event here, there's about 25 people that came up to me and gave me their cards like, I want to talk. So everyone has kind of a different model. Yeah. But the easiest way to explain it is usually there's a 2-day event that we do, which has in class and on the road. Or you can buy like a package of hours where, you know, sometimes people want to buy 10 hours of time and they can use them whatever way they want.
And it's like they buy 10 hours. Is that you?
Yeah,
or just me. Like, are you the main Flip School, or do you have like a whole team with you?
No, I have an admin that helps me, and it's me, and sometimes I have a couple other people help, but it's just the driver. Me. Yeah, it's just me.
So you mentioned you wrote a couple of books that did pretty well. Like, how does that process work, especially being like short bus? Like I was not a great student, especially in elementary school. I thought of writing a book I'm just terrified. Same as public speaking, I wouldn't have done that either. But like, how did that go about of you actually writing a book?
So it's interesting. The publisher asked me a couple times to do it, and my first response was no. I'm a short bus dude. I'm not good at reading, but my history is saying yes, right? So I'm like, what other options do we have? And they're like, well, you can have somebody interview you. And I was still like nervous, like I can't write a book. People aren't going to listen to me. I'm the kid that rode the short bus. Like, this doesn't make any sense. But a good buddy of mine, Xander Robertson, he interviewed me, and he wrote the first book. Yeah. And then a buddy of mine, Mark Loeffler, we did the second book, Fix and Flip. And then it was crazy because when I first seen it and read it, like, I can read, but it's hard to retain. It was like my own thoughts on paper, which was like the craziest shit ever. Like, it was just so weird.
So how did it feel when that first book came out?
I felt anxious and embarrassed and scared and nervous, and then people were asking me to sign it, and that's really weird. And I still kind of get weirded out. People stop me at Home Depot and like, hey, can you sign this book? And I'm grateful that I can help people. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not really about, hey, I'm the man, I'm the shit, I have a book. It's more, I'm glad you got value from it. I'm glad my way of thinking helped you navigate a renovation
So, considering we're on the short bus.
Yes.
How did this come about?
So for many years of my life, I tried to be somebody else. I didn't want to own, I went to school on the short bus, and I'm different, right? It's basically being different. So I tried all kinds of different things. I the high-end car and the Rolex and the fancy suits and tried to be like everybody else. And then I realized that I wasn't happy, and I said, what if I just started celebrating it? What if I created a place that was safe for people, that made the short bus cool again, right? That all the guys that rode the long bus wanted to get on the short bus, but only certain people could get on, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that there was a need to help people, and we started going to group homes and talking to kids with special needs. And I was like, I didn't have any role models that could kind of say, you can think differently, you can act differently, yeah. You can be who you are, and you can still be successful. So I started embracing it. I screwed it all up, right? This is my second bus. The first bus was shitty. And
so what happened to the first bus?
Okay, so I bought the wrong bus. I didn't pay enough money. I bought a shitty bus off Kijiji. I hired the wrong mechanic. I hired the wrong guy to paint it. And I ended up, it was interesting because I ended up 2 years later, and I went to go pick it up. And it was in a field behind an auto body shop, and all the windows were out of it, and the doors were out of it, and there's all kinds of shit inside. And I got so upset, like I got so emotional. I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you basically ripped me off, right? Yeah. You wrecked my bus, and I got so emotional about it. And I'm like, why am I getting so upset about this? Like, I'm like, so let's do it right. So 6 months, I tracked down somebody that owned like 300 of these buses. And I made him sell me one he didn't want to, but I harassed the shit out of him. And then we just started building it, and it just turned into this, I don't know, it turned into this vehicle for people to hang out like yourself and just have cool conversations.
So how many people have you now like had on the bus for like talks and things like that?
I'm not really sure, because I have a whole bunch of videos we need to edit, but I'm thinking we're probably over 15 or 20.
Nice.
Yeah. And
so like, you know, you see people saying like, and here's one here, like Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
How did you get him on the bus?
So that's when it really got into motion. And I think I was helping a friend. We were doing an event at Haston Hustle, and I was speaking at Shauna. Yeah, she's awesome. And
I sponsored that one. I did like $1,000 for the 10 kids.
Yeah. So we were sitting around figuring out ways to. There was a point where we had some tickets, and we're like, what are we gonna do with these tickets? We should give them away. And I'm like, what about the at-risk youth? So we came up with this idea to buy one ticket and donate 10 to at-risk youth. So I basically paused my businesses, and I jumped in this bus, and I harassed everybody that I knew and started filming it and going to Starbucks and doing Facebook Lives and selling books. And we raised like $31,000, and we had, thank you for donating, by the way.
No problem.
We had 310 at-risk youth come to the event. So these are like my people, right? I'm like, I'm giving back, I'm fighting for these kids to go there, because I wish I had that opportunity. And then Sean was like, because you busted your butt and you did so much work, you know, maybe we can see if you can talk to Gary for a bit. And I thought it was going to be 5 minutes, and we ended up being on here for like 30 minutes. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
So sorry for it, but like, how did you raise all this money?
Yeah.
And you're like, because you wanted to bring the at-risk youth.
Yeah.
Now, how do you go about finding those kids to come to the event?
It was like 24 hours a day of me messaging big brothers and sisters, going to schools, talking to principals. I'm scared of principals, right? Like, I used to get in so much shit. So I was like walking in with my boss, and they're like, who's this guy? And I'm like, yeah, we have all these tickets. If you have kids that are interested, let me know. So we were like talking to principals and teachers and group homes, and like anybody that would listen. I just went on a mission. Like, I shut down everything and went on a mission.
Yeah. And then so you ended up filling all those tickets that you bought?
310 seats.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was like 3 weeks, so it was tough.
It was a hustle?
It was good though, because it was like, it brought me back to where I was. Do you know what I mean? You kind of get lost in all the other stuff, and it's like, what really matters? And it's those kids, right?
Yeah. So how did you find like interviewing Gary V? What was that like?
I was nervous, right? I was like, he came on, we had a security guard, there was my camera guy was here, and his camera guy girl was here, it was a girl. It was nerve-wracking, but to be honest, I've done speaking events about real estate, and there was like 2,200 people there. I spoke there, and I was less nervous at that event than I would be at a real estate event. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like my heart's connected to helping the people. Yeah. And what I really wanted to get out of talking to Gary was, he says a lot about it's his family and it's his upbringing, and you'll notice that he was hitting me on the leg because I kept asking. I wanted more because a lot of the kids that I met have potentially trying to commit suicide, and I wanted to get a little bit more out. Do just to give to them, right?
Yeah.
It's about them. It wasn't about me. And we got a lot of people asking me about it, and it was awesome. Like he's a cool guy. We had a lot of fun.
That's good. And like, what kind of people do you normally have on? So like outside of the Gary Vee, because that's kind of like that random moonshot for a lot of people. Like, what are your other typical guests for your show look like?
It's interesting. Like I've had single mothers that are on here. I've had a gentleman that lived in Chile and came here and started a new life, and then his mom unfortunately got cancer. So he donated. He had $70,000 that he gave to her. He lost like everything to look after. It's people that are struggling. It's people that don't really fit into the world or have had a stressful position, and it's just showing people that everybody has their shit. Just on the outside, they pretend they don't, but it's people that are willing to share their horror stories on life and how they overcame them.
So interesting, because like obviously like we search for guests for our show, like for that where it's like a very niche thing. Like how do you go about finding people to get on your show?
It's interesting. Like people reach out. Events like this. It's like, for example, we did the 2-day speaking thing here. I did the big stage and then this breakout room, and someone asked me, "You're not pitching anything. You're not selling anything. You're not saying, hey, I do this, I do this." But it's like the 26 people or 25 people that came up to me are attracted to me because of my story, and then we work together. So it's like, it's almost like I can't work with 200 people at this event, but I'm attracted to 25 that have similar stories or are attracted to my message.
Find a way to collaborate.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
So where do you see like 5 years from now Short Bus Talks and what you're doing are? Or do you have like long-term visions like that?
A little slow, man. I don't have the... No, what I've noticed the trend has been is that people want to hire me to come and speak at events and bring the bus and talk about how the bus is fueled. Yeah. To me, it just brings, like if I'm driving down the street and I pick up 2 random people, it just brings people together. I think it's more of a celebration of being who you are and celebrating your differences. And I think it strengthens groups of people.
So creating that community.
Yeah.
So do you ever think like you'll get multiple buses and have like fleets going to conferences?
I've joked about it. I'm not sure. It's a little. My wife will kick my ass if I keep talking about short buses.
Loading out the front lawn.
Yeah. It's a challenging thing having one bus, but I don't know. I think there's something around it. It's building organic community and just being support for people. I'm not really sure, and I don't want to put it in a box because it just starts growing the way it needs to grow.
So how far has this bus traveled?
The farthest I think we've been is LA, so Toronto to LA.
Oh, nice. It's a long drive.
Yeah, 4 hours, 4 days each way. So yeah.
So what'd you do in LA with the bus?
There was an event there called Archangel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Giovanni.
Giovanni's one of the guys that helped me pull this whole thing together. I had lunch with him, and he kind of called me out on my shit and said, "How come you didn't get another bus?" And so I bought. He's been great.
So, like, you drive it to LA. Is it because they wanted the bus there, or like, do you not like flying? Or
no, I love flying. It was basically my voyage. Like, it was the first time the bus was ready, and I'm like, there's only one way to do this is to get in and drive this thing, right? Like, you gotta remember, like, I had all this anxiety about owning a bus, and then it took me months to get the courage to drive the bus, and people laugh and point like you're the short bus guys. You are. It's orange, it has a friggin' deck on the roof. It's not stealth, right? So it's almost like celebrating your biggest fear. So there's a lot of emotion that goes along with that. So it took me probably a year just to get the courage to drive it. And when I remember driving to LA, I've never been on a road trip. It's winter. I don't have a furnace on here now, but I didn't have heat. So my wife's like, "Are you like out of your mind? Like you're gonna drive this by yourself?" And I remember pulling up in Beverly Hills in this ridiculous 5-star hotel, and there's Ferraris and Lamborghinis in the front. And I drove up, and the bell guys, you can see them looking at each other like laughing, like, "What the hell is this circus bus doing here?" Right? And he's like, "You dropping someone off?" I'm like, "No." And I gave him $100. I'm like, "You need to park this with valet, right?" So he backs it up, and there's a Lambo beside it. And
probably the same cost.
Yeah, it's not a cheap bus. It maybe looks silly, but it's
unique.
But I think for me it was celebrating who I was and owning it. And the crazy thing is, that night, this was the party bus, right? Like, we have
we did it at the event. You had the lights going, the music, and everything.
Yeah, it's just like, to me, it boggles my mind. It's a 5-star resort, and we have everyone hanging out in this bus, and like
pretty comfortable.
Who's who was like in the bus hanging out, and the conversations, like it builds community, right?
Yeah. So have you found that that's like building that community has led to a lot of connections for you?
Yeah, because I think everybody has that in them. They have that. They're a little bit different, and they only try it a little bit. And in this bus, people are just who they are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it takes you back to the.
It takes you back. Like, we're on a school bus with heat and a ridiculous stereo system, and it just
a TV.
Yeah, there's video games. Like, it's just. But it's also a distraction, right? And the big thing that people don't notice is they get on here distracted, right? And they're not really sure what to do. And then they sit down and they feel comfortable and they feel accepted, and then they start talking about stuff they wouldn't normally talk about. And I think everybody wants to come out and have that side, but I also make a lot of enemies. Like there's not enemies, but a lot of people don't know how to take me, and they think it's ego, and it's not, but it's, you know what I mean? It
means you're doing something right.
Yeah, you got haters, right?
Yeah,
people.
They all happen.
Haters, right? But it's all right. It's all good.
I had a question. I have to edit this out. I had a question, and then I'm forgetting what it was. That's why I don't do them live.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what it was. Is there anything else you want to talk about while I'm thinking what that question was?
Sure, yeah. I think a lot of my success has come from taking complex things and dissecting them down into small little pieces and allowing people to see what they really are. And I think every gift has its curse as well, right?
So, like, you do short bus talks, you have these videos.
Yep.
So, like, a lot of agents, they can create content. Like, it is a struggle for people to, like, essentially create content. You're creating content. Now, what's your process look to get people to actually watch it? How does that look like?
So that's a challenge for me, to be honest with you, because when I started Short Bus Talks, I never really talked about real estate.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I cut that leg off, and I'm like, I'm just driving my bus. And a lot of people are like, how the hell do you pay for this bus? What do? You sell drugs? Like, how do you pay for this? Like, no, I had this whole history. So it's kind of like I have two worlds, where it's like the investment world that people know me, the DUI stuff, the flipping stuff, the investment stuff, and then we have the Short Bus Talk stuff. It's all me, but it's kind of hard to figure out how they connect together.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I have two groups of people that I work with. I've been experimenting a lot with different things. A lot of my success came from the how-to videos, DIY stuff.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think I get a lot of text or a lot of Facebooks when you have time, let's talk.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure it all out, man. Yeah. I don't have it sorted out.
Just gotta
I need to talk to you, dude. You got it all figured out.
Well, I don't know about that. It might look that way.
Yeah. I'm just throwing it out there, and I'm just doing what I've always done. Just say yes to things that I like and I'm interested in.
I think like that's what makes a successful entrepreneur, is like just saying yes and figuring it out. Like, that's half of what I'm doing. Like, we've said yes to a lot of things that have failed miserably, and then just keep going and find the ones that work.
I think the interesting thing is I have a real estate license, and I use it for purchasing my own properties and helping a small group of people build portfolios. But a lot of people say, why are you teaching realtors?
No.
That's bad. Like, you're going to teach realtors what you do. I'm like, yeah, but they're going to do it the way they do it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a short bus. Like, there's all this holding on of shit. Like, it's like, don't teach people. I'm open. I'm like, I'll show you everything.
Yeah, so I do the same thing.
Do you know what I mean?
I'll give away exactly how we do it. Like, we'll even have clients who come who, like, basically up front tell us, we only want to hire you until you figure out what you're doing, then we're going to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, then let's structure the contract so I'll actually train you while I'm doing it to take it over. Like, I don't mind doing that. Like, there's enough business out there for everybody. So it's just, I guess it's a different mentality a lot of people have.
Well, the way I look at it is, you want to help them to get to where they need to go to.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm building generational wealth for myself, and if I can help a realtor do that for another 100 people, that's good.
Yeah.
Right? I want to help as many people as I can. I don't want to hoard all my stuff to me and these 100 people don't get to make it. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. I've always shared.
So do you find flip school's your main way of helping the most people?
It's interesting because flip school used to be the biggest way to do it, of tangible tools that work. And now I'm getting a lot more conversations around personal development and how they're stuck on things and how they need to move forward. I've always done it through flip school. It's just never really advertised. It's kind of like, you can do this, but you know what I mean?
That's the foundation.
But it's not that you don't know how to frame a wall. Do you know what I mean? It's always been people, but it's more prominent now, where people are like, I just want to come on the bus and then we'll talk about it.
So if people want to like get a hold of you, collaborate with you, or go to flip school or something like that, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Facebook Messenger. Yeah.
So add Ian Szabo. I will actually tag him in the video.
I'm really not that complex. It's just like, I know with Facebook Messenger, if I look at it, they see it, so I have to respond. Do you know what I mean?
Red.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, he's seen this, so he's being a dick if he doesn't respond, right? So I'm like, that's the most convenient way.
Sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you coming on over a pint. Over a Starbucks, which you guys are welcome to sponsor the show. We will allow it. Anyways, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time. Man. Anytime.
Yeah, we'll rock this out on the bus.
Perfect.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, man.
That was fun.